put the chat up here. Chat box is up, so that up here. I wonder what the vibe of this book is, because I want to match the music to it. Looks like there's little sub things here. This is very interesting. That's so cool. They have little they have little like subsections to show that we know what we're talking about. Where's the chat box on here? The chat box on Mr. Shark. Give everything a couple more minutes before we start. Right here, let's read the intro, shall we? Is this the intro or is this chapter 1? So chapter 1 starts 1. Okay, so there's like a little bit of an intro. I guess I'll get that out the way while people start to join. I'm here live. Letting the Discord folks know. Just doing my hair on stream. That middle section be acting up. That's better. It's much better than earlier. Then I put the headphones on. That works. I leave the headphones off because the music's really only for you guys. So I won't mess with my hair. Well, looks like no one's coming, but we'll just keep reading. I can lightly hear the music on my screen. Okay, this is really cool because it says there's a quote here, and it says, "Of the what importance are brief, nameless lives to Galactus?" And that's a fact quote from the Fantastic Four that he put in the beginning of the book. And then the reviews, because I don't even know what this book's about. My friend recommended it to me. It says hauntingly horrific and kick ass. This shit's starting to feel like a librarian book in here. I'm wondering, should I just change up the music? Might be too lo-fi. Here, let's look for a good song first, and then we'll start. She said I just woke up from a fat nap. Procrastinating. I've been sleeping on this book. I have to read this book tomorrow with my friend, so I'll at least have a couple chapters knocked out within the hour. Deep focus. I don't like any of these sounds. We just have the city ambiance in the back. I think city ambiance works a lot better. I really shouldn't have touched my face earlier. Yes, we were thinking about it, but we've changed our minds. New York jazz, I fuck with this. This is cool. I fuck with this. The slight New York jazz. You like jazz? Nah, I wanna match shark puppet in the back. That's our friend. Here, let's make this a little smaller. Yeah, let's make this smaller. Coffee shop music. I don't know what the book's about, so I want to match the vibe of that. We cut this in half. Make it like 450. Just so we don't cover up Mr. Shark. Okay. What's their name? Ooh, that's a great question. How about we name him Lenny? Lenny sounds like a fine name for a shark of his expertise. A shark like him. I can hear the soft music in the background anyway, so I don't need the headphones. But it's just so y'all can hear it and it doesn't... Okay, so yeah, that quote was from Galactus. That's really cool. The Brief Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde. Let's read all the intro stuff. Christ have mercy on all sleeping things, from the dog riding down Brixton Road to when I was a dog on the streets. Name it Snuggie. Pfft. If loving these islands must be my load, out of corruption my soul takes wings, but they had started to poison my soul with the big house, big car, big time boholohol. Oh, they have bad words in here. I can't say these words. Coli, blank, Syrian, and French Croeli. So I leave it to them. This is a quote that's in the beginning of the book, so I'm just going to read this before we actually get to the body of the book. A rusty head sailor with the sea eyes, and they nickname Shabine the patios for any red, wow, blank, and I, Shabi, saw, yeah, let's not read this. This has the N-word in it like 5 times. All right, let's see here. There's like a little intro thing in the beginning. And then it starts the actual official chapter. So I think I'm going to read that. Our hero. Is this a hero book? They say it came... I'm going to read the first intro first. I will be reading the intro first. And then we'll start the book. They say it came first from Africa, carried in the screams of the enslaved. Is this a slave book? Might be. That it was the death bane of Thanos, uttered just as one world perished and the other began. That it was a demon, dawn into creation through the nightmare door that was cracked open in the Antilles. Foucault Americans, or more colloquially, Foucault, generally a curse or doom of some kind, specifically the curse and the doom of the New World, also called the Foucault of the Admiral because the Admiral was both in midwife and one of its great European victims. Despite discovering the New World, an Admiral died miserable and syphilic, hearing deep divine voices. In Santo Domingo, the land he loved best, would Oscar and the end would call the ground zero of the New World. The Admiral's very name had become synonyms of both kinds of Foucault, little and large. To say his name aloud, or even to hear it, is to invite calamity on the heads of you and yours. No matter what its name or provenance, it is believed that the arrival of the Europeans on Hispaniola unleashed the Fuku on the world, and we've all been in that shit ever since. Santo Domingo might be Fuku kilometer 0. It's port of entry, but we are all of us its children, whether we know it or not. But Fuku ain't just ancient history, a ghost story from the past with no power to scare. In my parents' day, the Fuku was real as shit, something your everyday person could believe in. Everybody knew someone who'd been eaten by a Fuku, just like everybody knew someone who'd worked up in the Palacio. It was in the air, you could say, though, like all most important things on the island, not something folks even talked about. But in those elder days, Fuku had it good. It even had a hype man of sorts, a high priest, you could say. Our then dictator for life, Rafael Linoides Trujillo Molina. No one knows whether Trujillo was the curse's servant or its master. And there's like a little screaming when English teachers would say it. Ooh, English teachers, yeah. Can't say that here. I never had any English teachers that would dare to say. But there's little markers here that explain what Trujillo Molina is. It says, for those of you who missed your mandatory 2 seconds of Dominican history, oh my gosh. Yo, this is funny. Trujillo, one of the 20th century's most infamous dictators, ruled the Dominican Republic between 1930 and 1961 with implacable, ruthless brutality. A paltry, sadistic, pig-eyed multo who bleached his skin, wore platform shoes, and had a fondness for Napoleon-era haberdashery. Trujillo, also known as El Jefe and the failed cattle thief, or fuckface, came to control nearly every aspect of DR's political, culture, social, and economic life through a poet and familiar mixture of violence, intimidation, massacre, rape, co-optation, and terror. Treated the country like it was a plantation and he was the master. At first glance, he was just your prototypical Latin American caudillo, but his power was terminal in ways that few historians or writers have ever truly captured, or I would argue imagined. He was our Sarun, or Arwan, or Dark Side. Oh, he was like a villain. They're comparing him to Dark Side. Oh, cool. Thanks for the insight. I didn't know you knew. So they're talking about Dark Side now. Let's have this up so we don't look just straight down. So this guy's the equivalent of Dark Side, they said, and our once future dictator, a personaje so outlandish, so perverse, so dreadful that not even a sci-fi writer could have made his ass up. Famous for changing all the names of all the landmarks in the Dominican Republic to honor himself, Pico Duarte became Pico Trujillo. Santo Domingo de Guzman, the first oldest city in the New World, became Ciudad Trujillo. For making ill monopolies out of every slice of national patromacy, which quickly made one of the wealthiest men on the planet, for building one of the largest militaries in the hemisphere. Dude had bomber wings, for fuck's sake. For fucking every hot girl in sight and the wives of his subordinates, thousands upon thousands of women, for expecting no insisting on abusive veneration from his pueblo, telling the national slogan was Dios y Trujillo, for running the country like it was a Marine boot camp. So this man ran the country like it was a Marine boot camp, for stripping friends and allies of their positions and properties for no reason at all, and for his almost supernatural abilities. Sarman. Candles are literally the lights. Perhaps. Outstanding accomplishments include the 1937 genocide against the Haitian and Haitian Dominican community, one of the longest, most damaging U.S.-backed dictatorships in the Western Hemisphere. And if we Latin types are skillful at anything, it's tolerating U.S.-backed dictators. So you know that this was a hard-earned victory, and Chilenos and Argentues, I'm butchering all these words, are still appealing. The creation of the first modern kleptocracy, Trujillo was Mobuto before Mobuto was Mobuto. I'm assuming Mobuto is a word that means very bad things. The systematic bribing of American senators, and last but not least, the foraging of Dominican peoples in the modern state, did what his Marine trainers during the occupation we were unable to do. Sick. Okay, well, had some background on a dictator, real life, Luis Trujillo Molina. So that's some background on Rafael Trujillo. If you listen to Trujillo, that is not a good thing. Or if you have any relation to Trujillo, if you hear Trujillo, talking about a very bad man, for those who might have not listened. But anyways, continuing to the book, there's a couple more of those descriptive parts. This is the intro of the book, and then we'll get to the actual book itself. So, leaving off, it says, no one knows whether Trujillo was the cursed servant or its master, its an agent or its principal, but it was clear he and it had an understanding that them two was tight. It was believed, even in educated circles, that anyone who plotted against Trujillo would incur a fuku, most powerful, down to the seventh generation and beyond. So fuku's a curse. So those who would incur a fuku, the most powerful, down to the seventh generation and beyond. If you even thought a bad thing about Trujillo, Fuya, a hurricane, would sweep your family out to sea. Fuya, a boulder would fall of the sky and squash you. Fuya, the shrimp you ate today was the cramp that killed you tomorrow. Which explains why everyone who tried to assassinate him always got done. Why those dudes who finally did buck him down also died so horrifically. What about fucking Kennedy? He was the one who green-lighted the assassination of Trujillo in 1961, who ordered the CIA to deliver arms to the island. Bad move, Captain. For what Kennedy intelligence experts failed to tell him was that every single Dominican, for the richest Jabo in Mao to poorest Guay in El Buey, from the richest Jabo in Mao and to the poorest Guay in El Buey, from the oldest Anicano San Marcusian to the littlest Carquito San Francisco, knew that whoever killed Trujillo, their family would suffer fuku so dreadful that it would make the one who attacked itself to the Admiral Jojote in comparison. So if you're trying to mess with this dude, you are horrendously fucked. Because apparently he had supernatural protection around him. That's crazy. Mr. Trujillo is a bad man. Monpo was a dictator over cargo. Oh, cool. We're having history class. Let's go. I think the Powerpuff Girls script. That sounds awesome. Oh, there's a lot of bad words on this page. Okay. I'm going to just say... Yeah, I'm just going to say N-word. I'm not going to say it. I'm just going to say the word. Whatever. You'll see. You want a final conclusive answer to the Warren Communist Commission's question, who killed JFK? Let me, your humble watcher, reveal once and for all the God's honest truth. It wasn't a mob or LBJ or a ghost of Marilyn fucking Monroe. It wasn't aliens or the KGB or a lone gunman. It wasn't the Hunt brothers of Texas Lee Harvey or the Trilateral Commission. It was Trujillo. It was the Fuku. Where in Coñazo do you think the so-called curse of the Kennedys came from? How about Vietnam? Why do you think the greatest power in the world lost its first war and third war country like Vietnam? I mean, N-word, please. It might interest you that just they had the N-word in Spanish, so I thought that was funny. And I was like, wait, I can't say that because that's a color, but I'm just going to play it safe. It might interest you that just as the U.S. was ramping up its involvement in Vietnam, LBJ launched an illegal invasion of the Dominican Republic, April 23rd, 1965. San Domingo was Iraq before Iraq was Iraq. The person who wrote this is hilarious. Everything, I fuck with his writing style. A smashing military success for the U.S. and many of the same units, intelligence teams that took part in democratization of Santo Domingo were immediately shipped off of Saigon. Where do you think those soldiers, technicians, and spooks carried with them in the rucks in their suitcases and their shirt pockets? On the hair inside their nostrils, caked around their shoes. Me doing the book stream is also helping me fucking speak out loud properly, because I've been struggling with that, unfortunately, because I haven't even had time to read books, and it's very evidently showing. Okay, what do you think of these soldiers, technicians, and spooks that carried with them in their rucks and in their suitcases and their shirt pockets, their hair inside their nostrils, caked up around their shoes? Just a little gift from my people to America, a small repayment for the unjust war. That's right, folks, Fuku. Which is why it's important to remember Fuku doesn't always strike like lightning. Sometimes it works patiently, drowning a N-word by degrees, like when the admiral in the U.S. in Patties outside of Sangyon. Sometimes it's slow and sometimes it's fast. It's doomish in the way that makes it harder to put a finger on, to brace yourself against, but assured like Darkseid's Omega effect, like Morthgro's Bane, no matter how many turns and digressions this ship might take, it always, and I mean always, gets its man. Okay, so there's a number here that's explaining, where's it at? JFK, I think. Where's this number at? Was that an earlier page? It says, okay, here's one for your conspiracy-minded fools. On the night of John F. Kennedy Jr.'s and Carolyn Bassinet and her sister Lauren went down their Piper Saragota, John's family favorite domestic Providence Perdes Dominicana, was in Martha's vineyard cooking up for John his favorite dish, chicharrón de pollo, but Fuku always eats first and it eats alone. Is that just like mentioning that? I don't see where that was. I guess that was just like more of a statement than it was an explanation. I don't see the number 2 anywhere. Oh, there's from. Where do you think the curse came from? Okay, that's what I was talking about. He's one for your conspiracy-minded fools. And then I have GFK's Juniors and Carol Bassinets and her sisters Lauren went down to their Piper Saratoga, John's father, favorite domestic. Was in Martha's Vineyard's cooking. Vineyard. Oh, he must have died or something. Carol Baskin. What's wrong with the moon? Talk to me. Anyways, this other one said, Darkseid's Omega effect like Morgrath's Bane, and then explaining Morgrath, I am the Elder King, Melkor first and mindset of all valor, who was before the world and made it. The shadow of my purpose lies upon Arda, and all that is in it bends slowly and surely to make my will. But upon all whom love my thoughts shall wait, cloud of doom, it's weathered them down in darkness and despair. Wherever they go, evil shall rise. Whenever they speak, their words shall bring ill counsel. Whatsoever they do shall turn against them. They shall die without hope, cursing both life and death. Okay, buddy. We're almost to the actual book. Last couple of pages here. Okay, whether I believe in that many have described as the Great American Doom is not really the point. You live as long as I did in the heart of Funku country, and you hear these kinds of tales all the time. Everybody in Santo Domingo has a Fuku story knocking around in their family. I have a 12-daughter uncle. What? I have a 12-daughter uncle in and the Quiabo who believed that he'd been cursed by an old lover never to have male children. Oh, that's not bad. Fuko, I have a tia who believed she'd been denied happiness because she'd laughed at her rival's funeral. Fuku, my parental abuelo believes that Dispora was Trujillo's payback to the pueblo that betrayed him. Fuku. It's perfectly fine if you don't believe in these superstitions. In fact, it's better than fine. It's perfect because no matter what you believe in, Fuku believes in you. Okay. Crazy. Don't get me Fuku. A couple weeks later, while I was finishing this book, I posted the thread Fuku in the DRI forum. And just out of curiosity, these days I'm nerdy like that. The tailback blew the fuck up. You see how many responses I've got, and they just keep coming in. And not just from the Domos, the Puerto Rocks want to talk about fufus, and the Haitians have some shit just like it. There's a zillion of these fuku stories. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. I wonder how you pronounce that. Let's see, shall we? Oh, fuck, I forgot how to do voice to speech. Can't stop, won't stop. And I started sharing hers with mine. There's a zillion Fuku stories. And as I'm sure you've guessed by now, I have a Fuku story too. I wish I could say it was best of the lot, Fuku number 1, but I can't. Mine ain't the scariest, the clearest, the most painful, or the most beautiful. It just happens to be the one that's got its fingers around my throat. I'm not entirely sure Oscar would have liked this designation Fuku story. He was a hardcore sci-fi and fantasy man, believed that was the kind of story we were all living in. He'd ask, what more sci-fi than Santo Domingo? What more fantasy than Antilles? But now that I know how it turns out, I have to ask in turn, what more Fuku? One final note too, Tonto, before Kansas goes bye-bye. Traditional in San Diego, anytime you've mentioned or overheard the admiral's name, or any time Fuku reared its many heads, there was only one way to prevent disaster from coiling around you, only one surefire counterspell that would keep you and your family safe. Not surprisingly, it was a simple word, followed usually by vigorous crossing of your index fingers. Zafa. Followed usually by a vigorous crossing of your index finger. Zafa. Vigorous. It was used more popular in the old days, bigger, so speak, in Macando than Maco Ando. There are people, though, like my Tio Miguel in Bronx, who still Zafa everything. He's old school like that. If Yanks commit an error in the late innings, it's Zafa. If somebody brings shells from the beach, and it's Zafa. If you serve a man's parcha, it's Zafa. 24 hours Zafa, in hope that the bad luck would not have time to cohere. Even now, as I write these words, I wonder if this book ain't Zafa of sorts, my very own counterspell. Zafa, before we start. Alright, now the book's starting. So basically what that was talking about was how curses work, and how a man had a crazy curse, equivalent to dark side, Dominican history. And now we start the book. It says 1. Ghetto Nerd at the End of the World, 1974 through 1987. The Golden Age. Our hero was not one of those Dominican cats everyone always going on about. He's not no home hitter or fly bachatero, not a playboy with a million hots on his jaw, and except for one period early in life, dude never had much luck with females. How very un-Dominican of him. He was 7 then. In those blessed days of his youth, Oscar was something of a Casanova, one of those preschool lover boys who was always trying to kiss the girls, always coming up behind them in the Mernigu and giving them the pelvic pump, the first N-word that learned the perito, and the one who danced it any chance he got, because in those days he was still a normal Dominican boy raised in a typical Dominican family. His Nasep pimp likeness was encouraged by blood and friends alike during parties, and those were many parties in those long ago 70s days. Before Washington Heights and Washington Heights. What's up, Jones? What's up, man? Reading the book, man. Brief Wondrous Life of Oscar Wobe. Recommendation. Oh, shoot. He's got a 1-month subscriber gem. That's my man's. He got the baby car. Let's go. Oh, wow. There's another explanation bubble here. Okay, so I'm going to read the paragraph that's in front of it, and then I'll explain it. Before the barreling became the straight shot of Spanish for almost 100 blocks, some drunk relative inevitably pushed Oscar onto his little girl, and then everyone would howl as a boy and a girl, approximately the hip moisten of the adults. You should have seen him. His mother sighed in her last days. He was our little Porfio Ruby Rosa. True, I'm listening, bro. Okay, so there's an explanation too here that says who Ruby Rosa is. It says in the 40s and 50s, Porfio Ruby Rosa, or Ruby, as he was known in the papers, was the third most famous Dominican in the world. Oh shit! Jones! Dude, thanks for the 5 gifted subs, my man. I appreciate you. Sheesh. Look at this man's. Just come out here and make the entrance of a lifetime. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. As he was known in the papers, he was the third most famous Dominican in the world. First came the failed cattle thief, and then the Cobra woman herself, Maria Montez, a tall, debonair, pretty boy whose enormous palace created havoc in the Europe and the North. Hell yeah, let's give my man some love. Let's give my man some love. Go show him. Oh god, what we got? Yeah, let's do the cute flex. We'll cute flex him. Send some cute flexes to my man's. Cute flexes his way. Enormous follows created havoc Europe of North America. Rubisa was the most quintessential jet-setting, car racing, polo-obsessed playboy, the Trujillo's happy side, for he was indeed the Trujillo's best-known minions. A part-time former model and dashing man about town, Rubisa famously married Trujillo's daughter, Flor de Oro, in 1932. And even though they were divorced 5 years later, in the year of Haitian genocide, Homeboy managed to retain in El Jefe's good graces through the regiment's lost run. Unlike his ex-brother-in-law Ramphis, to whom he frequently connected, Ruby Rosa seemed incapable of carrying out many murders. In 1935, he traveled to New York to deliver El Jefe's death sentence against the exile leader Angel Morales. Angel Morales. So he's a playboy. I think that's what we can take from this. I'm almost done reading the explanation. I'm wondering if I should finish it. Let me see here. Low-key lost my spot. That was the son of actually Ramones. But he fled the botched assassination before it could take place. Ruby was the original Dominican player, fucked all sorts of women. Barbin Hutton, Doris Duke, who happened to be the richest woman in the world, the French actress Danielle Deroux, name he's dropping some tea, and Zaza Gabor, to name but a few. Like his pal Ramphis, Porfo died in a car crash in 1965, 12-cylinder Ferrari skidding off the road in the Bois Bogue. Hard to overstate the role cars play in our narrative. Hard to overstate the roles cars play in our narrative. Third most famous Dominican in the world. Pretty boy. Murders. You got it. Liza, looks like you got a sub. Thank my man Jones up there. But back to the book. It says all the other boys his age avoided the girls like they were a bad case of Captain Trips. Not Oscar. The little guy loved himself, the females. Had girlfriends galore. He was not a stout kid, heading straight to fat, but his mother kept him nice in haircuts and clothes, and before the prosperous of his head changed, he'd had these lovely flashing eyes and these cute-ass cheeks visible in all his pictures. The girls, his sister Lola's friends, his mother's friends, and even his neighbor Marie Colin, had 30-something postal employee who wore red on her lips and walked like she had a bell for an ass. So she was like shaking her ass when she walked. Oh my god. That's hilarious. Walked like she had a bell for an ass. All purportedly fell off him. Este muchacho está bueno. I mean, this man is bueno. Damn, Jones got some cool modes. Did it hurt at all when he used the earnest and clear attentive deprived? Not at all. In the DR during the summer visits to his family digs in Bani, he was the worst. Would stand in front of Nora's Inca's house and call out to passing women, "Tu eres guapa, tu eres guapa." Until a Seventh-day Adventist complained to his grandmother and she shut down the hit parade lickety-split. Muchacho del Diablo. This is not a cabaret. It truly was a golden age for Oscar, one that reached its apotheosis in the fall of the 7th year, when he had 2 little girlfriends at the same time. Oscar, you dog. His first and only Menge a Trois with Maritza Chonco and Olga Polanco. Maritza was Lola's friend, long-haired, prissy, and so pretty, so could have played young Delilah Torres. Olga, on the other hand, was no friend of the family. She lived in the house at the end of the block that his mother complained about because it was filled with Puerto Ricans who were always hanging out on their porch drinking beer. Now what's wrong with that? What, they couldn't have done that in Cameo? Oscar's mom asked crossingly. Olga had like 90 cousins, all who seemed to be named Hector or Luis or Wanda. And since her mother was un maldita borracha, to quote Oscar's mom, Olga smelled on the days of ass, which is why the kids took to calling her Miss Peabody. Miss Peabody or not, Oscar liked how quiet she was, how she let him throw her to the ground and wrestle with her, the interest she showed in the Star Trek dolls. Maritza was just plain beautiful, no need for motivation there. Always around too, and it was just a stroke of pure genius to convince him to kick it to them. Wait, what? Convinced him to kick it to them both at once. At first, he pretended that it was his number one hero, Shazam, who wanted to date them. But after they agreed, he dropped all pretense. It wasn't Shazam; it was Oscar. Those were more innocent days. So the relationship amounted to standing close to each other at the bus stop, some undercover hand holding and twice kissing on the cheeks very seriously. First Maritza, then Olga. While they were hidden from the streets, some bushes looked at little Macho. His mother's friends said, "Que hombre." Brings me back. Welcome, Matt. Kissing. Book streams always bring good luck. Look at all these moderators in here. You fix that. Que hombre. The threesome only lasted a single beautiful week. One day after school, Maritza concerned Oscar behind the swing. Or cornered Oscar. I said concerned. Let me shut this off. Kissing. So he convinced both these women to just coerce each other and him, because he liked both of them. It was pure surgery that convinced him to kick it to them both at once. That was a strange way of saying that. Kick it to them both at once. But the threesome only lasted a single beautiful week. One day after school, Maritza cornered Oscar behind the swing set and laid down the law. It's either her or me. Oscar held Maritza's hand and talked seriously at the great length about his love for her and reminded her that they had agreed to share But Maritza wasn't having any of it. She had 3 older sisters, knew everything she needed to know about possibilities of sharing. She had 3 older sisters, so she already been sharing her whole life. Let me see here. Maritza, with her chocolate skin and narrow eyes, already expressing to Orgun energy that she would chop at everyone for the rest of their life. Oscar went home morose to his pre-Korean sweatshop era cartoons, to the Hercules and Space Ghost. "What's wrong with you?" his mother asked. She was getting ready to go to her second job, the eczema on her hands looking like messy meal that had set, when Oscar whimpered, Girls. Mom de Leon nearly exploded. Tú estás llorando por una muchacha. She hauled Oscar to his feet by the ear. "Mommy, stop it." His sister cried, "Stop it." She threw him to the floor. "Dale un galletazo." She panted. I think that means like, smack him, smack the boy. You know everything about you? Oh wait, hold on, I missed a sentence up here. So they're talking about sharing, and it says, "Don't talk to me unless you get rid of her, Maritza, with her chocolate skin." Okay, I just missed that sentence there. But then he got home, he was sad, you know. He can't share the girls, and his mom's like, "Pa, para que te quita." She panted to see if the little puta respects you. She panted, then see if the little puta respects you. If he'd been a different N-word, he might have considered the galletazo. What does that mean? Maybe I'm pronouncing that wrong, because that's a Spanish word. It wasn't just that he didn't have no kind of father to show him the masculine ropes. He simply lacked all aggressive and marital tendencies. Unlike his sister, who fought boys and packs of morena girls who hated her tone, who hated their thin nose and stranglish hair, Oscar had like 0 combat training. Even Olga and her toothpick arms could have stomped him silly. Aggression and intimidation were out of the question. So he thought it over. Didn't take him long to decide. After all, Maritza was beautiful and Olga was not. Poor Olga. Olga sometimes smelled like pee and Maritza did not. What the hell? Where Olga come from then? Why you into Olga? Smell like pee. Hey, she got a good personality though. Olga sometimes smelled like pee. Maritza did not. Maritza was allowed over their houses. Olga was not. A Puerto Rican over here, his mother scoffed. Yamas. His logic as close to yes, no math of instincts of the N-word could get. He broke up with Olga the following day on the playground, Maritza at his side. No way she was there for the breakup. And how Olga had cried, shaking like a rag in her hand-me-downs and in the shoes that were 4 sizes too big, snot pouring out of her nose, everything. In later years, after he and Olga had both turned into overweight freaks, Oscar could not resist feeling an occasional flash of guilt when he saw Olga looping across the street, staring blankly out near the New York bus stop. Couldn't stop himself from wondering how much of his cold-ass balls breakup had contributed to her present fucked upness. Oh my gosh, this guy's funny. Breaking up with her, he would remember he hadn't felt like anything even when she started crying. He hadn't been moved, he said. No, be a baby. No, be a baby. Let me turn multi-stream on just to make sure I'm seeing everyone's comments. What had hurt, however, was when Maritza dumped him. Monday, after he'd fed Olga to the dogs, he arrived at the bus stops with his beloved Planet of the Apes lunchbox, only to discover beautiful Maritza holding his hands with the butt-ugly Nelson Padro. How old are they? They're on the playground. They're talking about threesomes. How old is this man? Let me double check. Doesn't even state it. Just talking about them. I gotta assume high school. But he's got a lunchbox. Maybe middle school? That's crazy. Yeah, it's gotta be middle school. Only to discover Maritza holding hands with the butt-ugly Nelson Pardo. Nelson Pardo, who looked like a chaka from the land of the lost. Nelson Pardo, who was so stupid he thought the moon was a stain that God had forgotten to clean. He'll get to it soon, he assured the whole class. Nelson Pardo, who would become the neighborhood B&E expert before joining the Marines and losing 8 toes in the first Gulf War. At first, Oscar thought it was a mistake. The sun was in his eyes. He'd not slept enough the night before. He was in denial. He stood next to them and admired his lunchbox. How realistic and diabolical Dr. Zarius looked, but Maritza wouldn't even smile at him, pretended he wasn't there. We shouldn't get married, she said to Nelson. Or we should get married, she said to Nelson. And Nelson grinned moronically, turning up the streets to look for the bus. Oscar had been too hurt to speak. He sat down on the curb and felt something overwhelming surged up from his chest, scared the shit out of him. And before he knew it, he was crying. When his sister Lola walked up and asked him what was the matter, he'd shaken his head. Look at the mariconcito. He said, look at the mariconcito, bro. I was just reading a review and they said it's child's porn in it. What? Dude, it was recommended to me by my friend, so it's got great reviews. Just reading reviews. Oh fuck. Dude. Was looking like it, middle schoolers. He goes to New York though, so hopefully we get out of this section pretty quickly. And he already got his heart broke, so there'll be no more loving from this point on. At first, Oscar thought, I was recommended this book. I didn't think about looking into it before I bought it, because I thought it was about winner of National Book Critics Circle, Word Fiction, New York Times notable winner of New York Times, author. The New York Times fricks with it, it says. San Francisco Chronicle. Okay. Let's just get through this part. Oh, really? That's interesting. Alright, we're almost done with the middle school part, it looks like. We should get married, he said to Nelson, and Nelson grinned moronically, turning up to the street and looked for the bus. Oscar had been too hurt to speak. He sat down on the curb and felt something overwhelming surge up from his chest, scared the shit out of him, and before he knew it, he was crying. His sister Lola walked up to him and asked, What's the matter? He'd shaken his head. Look at the mariconcito, some boy snickered. Oh. Somebody else kicked his beloved lunchbox and scared it and scratched it right across the General Urco's face. When he got off on the bus, still crying, the driver, famously performed PCP addict, had said, Christ, don't be a fucking baby. Oh my gosh. He said the fucking bus driver was like, don't be a fucking baby. How had the fake breakup affected Olga? What he really was asking, how had the breakup affected Oscar? It seemed to be Oscar from the moment the Maritza dumped him. Shazam. His life started going up and down the tubes. Over the next couple of years, he grew fatter and fatter. Damn. Middle school breakup just messed this man's life up. He said, I'm rusty. Got fatter and fatter. Early adolescence hit him especially hard, scrambling his face into nothing you could call cute, splotching his skin with zits, making him self-conscious. In an instant, in genres which nobody had said boo about before, suddenly became synonyms with being a loser with a Captain L. Couldn't make friends for his life of him, too dorky, too shy, and if kids from the neighborhood are to be believed, too weird. Had a habit of using big words he had memorized only the day before. He would learn a word and then just use it. Oh, that's real maloneness of you, sir. Maybe you should reconsider or whatever. Make this box bigger because it's cutting off. Yeah, make that bigger. There you go. I'm just friends to the life of him. He no longer went anywhere near the girls because at best they ignored him. At worst they shrieked and called him a gordo asqueroso. Oh my gosh. Gordo asqueroso. That's so mean. He forgot the perrito, forgot the pride he felt when the woman in finally had called him hombre, did not kiss another girl for a long, long time, as though almost everything he had in the girl department had burned up that one fucking week. Not that his girlfriends fared much better. It seemed that whatever bad no-love karma hit Oscar hit them too. By 7th grade, Olga had grown huge and scary. A troll gene in her somewhere started drinking 151 straight out of the bottle and finally taken out of school because she had a habit of screaming natas in the middle of homeroom. Even her breasts, when they finally emerged, were floppy and terrifying. Oh, don't be mean. She's developing. Once on the bus, Olga had called Oscar a cake eater, and he'd almost said, "Look who's talking." Puerca. Oh, he called her puerca. Money the shark. He just called her a pig. Looking, but he didn't say it. He said he didn't say it. But he was afraid that she would rear back and trample him. Because remember, Oscar's a skinny boy in the book. Oscar Woe's a skinny boy. His cool index already low could have survived that kind of policia. Would have put him on par with the handicapped kids and with Joe Locorando, who was famous for Joe Locorando, who was famous for masturbating in public, and the lovely Maritza Chancon. Oh wait, that was the person they went to school with. Couldn't have survived the closet. Would have put him on par with. Yeah, it was someone I went to school with. And the lovely Maritza Chancon, the hypotenuse of our triangle, how had she fared? Well, before you could say, "Oh mighty Isa," Maritza blew up into the flyest guapa in Paterson, one of the queens of New Peru, since they stayed neighbors. So this girl, he's talking about how everyone grew up and what they ended up doing. This girl ended up being fly, apparently. Maritza Chancon. Oscar saw her plenty, because that was his neighbor. A ghetto Mary Jane, hair as black and lush as a thunderhead. Probably the only Peruvian girl on the planet who pelo curlier than his sisters. He hadn't heard of an Afro-Peruvians yet, or of a town called Chincha. Body fine enough to make old men forget their infirmities. I'm also learning to speak this stream, so bear with me. Body so fine that old men would forget their infirmities, and from the 6th grade on, dating men 2-3 times her age. Girl, Maritza might not have been good at much, not sports, not school, not work, but she was good at men. Did that mean that she avoided the curse? That she was happier than Oscar or Olga? That was doubtful. From what Oscar could see, Maritza was a girl who seemed to delight in getting slapped around by her boyfriends, since it happened to her all the time. If a boy hit me, Lola said cockily, I would bite his face. See Maritza French kissing on the front stoop of her house, getting in or out of someone's roughneck's ride. Look at something else. It really is something else. Out of some roughneck's ride. Being pushed down onto the sidewalk, Oscar would watch the French kissing, the getting in and out of pushing through his cheerless, sexless adolescence. What else could he do? His boredom window looked out over the front of her house, and he always peeped her while he was painting his D&D miniatures. Damn, he was a hardcore nerd. Oh shit. Sip, thanks for the prime. Welcome 4 months. It was history class earlier in the stream. Oh yeah, we're reading a history part about because it was speaking about Dominican history and curses earlier. Zippy, thanks for the 4 months. Huge sub. Now you have now you get the purple diamond. Or you already had it. Yeah, I think you. No, she didn't have it. She didn't have it. Ugh. So he would peep all of her fondling with men through his windows while he was painting his D&D figures. Go figure. Get it? No, too bad. All right. Okay, so painting his D&D miniatures or reading the latest Stephen King. The only thing that has changed in those years were the models of the cars, the size of Maritza's ass, and the kind of music vaulting out of the car's speakers. First freestyle, then ill will era hip hop, and right at the very end, for just a little while, Hector Love and the boys. He said hi to her almost every day, all upbeat and foul happy, and she said hi back, indifferently, but that was it. He didn't imagine that she remembered their kissing, but of course he could not forget. He refused to forget. The morning, the Morodic Inferno. That's what the top of this chapter says. High school was... Okay, so now we're in high school. Things are still pretty illegal, but getting legaler in regards to the book. Let me turn on this light a little bit more so I can see my book. This is a crazy book, dude. I'm about to press Shardy for recommending me this. I guess it's my fault for not checking it before I started reading it. But hey, what is there to do? It's been an hour and we've only read 20 pages. Oh yeah, because we had the history lesson in the beginning. High school was Don Bosco Tech, and since Don Bosco Tech was an urban all-boys Catholic school, packed to the stakes with a couple hundred insecure, hyperactive adolescents, it was for a fat sci-fi reading nerd like Oscar a source of endless anguish. For Oscar, high school was equivalent of medieval spectacle, like being put in stocks and forced to endure the peddlings and the outrages of a mob and deranged half-wits, an experience from which he supposed he should have emerged a better person, but that's not really what happened. And if there were any lessons to be gleaned from the ordeal of those years, he never quite figured out what they were. He walked into the school every day like a fat, lonely, nerdy kid he was, and all he could think about was the day of his manumission. The day of his manumission. I don't know what the fuck that is. Oh wait, I think there's an explanation here for that. Where's the explanation at? No, that's not even for that one. What's the explanation for then? Oh, it's a nerd explanation. I don't see the number. Whatever. David's Wondrous. When he would at last be set free from his unending horror. Hey, Oscar, are those very bad word on Mars? Hey, Kanzo. Very no, I'm not going to say it. It's an F word that you can't say this day and age. And you wouldn't want to say anyway. Hey, Kazoo, catch this. The first time he heard the term Moronic Inferno, he knew exactly where it was located and who was its inhabitants. Sophomore year, Oscar found himself weighing at the whopping 245 pounds, 260 when he was depressed, which was often. So he fluctuated from 245 to 260. That sucks. I weigh like 240. So that's intense. That's a jump. In high school. Wow. Poor guy. Especially if he was short. Trying to find where this explanation note is. Oh, it's right here. I'm an idiot. Okay, cool. We haven't even run into it yet. Okay, so he would weigh 260 when he was depressed, which was often. And it had become clear to everybody, especially his family, that he'd become the neighbor's pariguao. Had none of the... Pariguao. He had none of his higher powers of your typical Dominican male. Let me read the explanation of what a pariguao is. The progenitive pariguao, watchers agree, is a corruption of the English neologism, party watcher. The word came into common usage during the first American occupation of the DR, which ran from 1916 to 1924. You didn't know where they occupied twice in the 20th century. You didn't know we were occupied twice in the 20th century? Don't worry. When you were kids, they don't know the U.S. occupied Iraq either. During the first occupation, it was reported that the members of the American occupying forces were often attended Dominican parties. But anyways, Oscar did not have higher powers of your typical Dominican male. Couldn't have pulled a girl if his life depended on it. Couldn't play sports for shit, or dominoes, was beyond uncoordinated. Threw a ball like a girl, had no knack for music or business or dance, or no hustle, no rap, no G, and most damning of all, no looks. Cake sounds crispy because we're right in the face of the mic. We're in the sweet spot, dare I say, of the microfono. Okay, so you couldn't do any of that to save his life, he said. No looks, he wore semi-kink hair in Puerto Rican afro, rocked enormous Section 8 glasses, and his anti-pussy devices. Alan Miggs, his only friends called them, sported an unappealing trace of mustache on his upper lip and possessed a pair of close-set eyes that made him look somewhat R-word. The eyes of Mingus, a comparison he made himself one day going through his mother's record collection. She was the only old-school Dominicana. He knew he had dated a Moreno until Oscar's father put an end to his particular chapter in Al African World Party. You have the same eyes as your abuelo, his Nana Inca had told him on one of his visits to the DR. Dominican Republic is what they mean when they say DR, by the way. Which is, I assume, which should have been some comfort. Who doesn't like resembling an ancestor? Except the particular ancestor had ended his days in prison. Oscar had always been a young nerd, the kind of kid who read Tom Swift, who loved comic books and watched Ultraman. But by high school, his commitment to the genres had become absolute. Back when the rest of us were learning to play wall ball and pitch quarters and drive our oldest brother's cars and sneak dead soldiers from under our parents' eyes. Dead soldiers, I must be saying. He was gouging himself on a steady stream of Lovecraft Wells, Burgos, Howard Alexander, Herbert, Ansmoff, Bova, and Hylan, and even the old ones who were already beginning to fade. E.E., Doc Smith, Stapleton. These are all authors, I'm assuming. Stapleton and the guy who wrote all the Doc Savage books. Yep. Moving hungrily from book to book, author to author, age to age, it was his good fortune that librarians of Patterson were so unfunded that they still kept a lot of the previous generation's nerdily in circulation. You couldn't have torn him away from any movie or TV show or cartoon where the monster spaceships or mutants or doomsday devices or destinies or magic or evil villains. In these pursuits alone, Oscar showed the genius his grandmother insisted was part of the family patrimony. Could write in Elvish, could speak in Shakawas, could differentiate between Slan and Dorsey and Lensman in acute detail, knew more about the Marvel universe than Stan Lee. These are all of his like the pros, like everything he's good at. He's a nerd, he reads, he streams. Knew more about the Marvel universe than Stan Lee, and was a role-playing game fanatic. If only he'd been good at video games, it would have been a slam dunk, but despite owning an Atari and an intervention, he didn't seem to have the reflexes for it. Perhaps if, like me, he'd been able to hide his awkwardness, maybe shit would have been easier for him, but he couldn't. Dude wore nerdiest like a Jedi wore lightsaber. Dude wore his nerdiest like a Jedi wore his lightsaber on Lensman her lens. Or a lensman her lens. Couldn't have passed for a normal if he'd wanted to. There's like a sci. The notes here kind of suck. It was just talking about a sci-fi. Some of them are helpful, but let's talk. Oh my god, look how big this note is. This like this whole section right here, like this, from this line all the way down. This is a note explaining Doctor Who and Blake. I guess that's cool because it's like talking about his perspective. So anyways, Oscar was a social introvert who trembled the fear during the gym class and watched a nerd British show like Doctor Who and Blake 7 and couldn't tell you the difference between a Verantech fighter and Zentritic Walker. And he used a lot of huge sounding nerd words like infatigable and ubiquitous when talking to the N-words who were barely graduate from high school. Okay, do we want to read this note? All right. Oh wait, actually, this is a continuation from the other one. Oh, that's just huge then. Oh yeah, that's not about nerd stuff. That's about couldn't have passed for a normal if he wanted to. So that's saying a single green card shifted only words from third to first, but centuries for almost TV and electricity. Plenty of them both after transition. I'm trying to see if this is worth reading. Just like kind of scanning it real quick. It's a huge note, and it's like a side thought and like a tangent from like the main story, which is kind of cool and super ADHD, which I love. You really want to know what being an X-Men feels like? Just be smart book-ish boy in color contemporary U.S. ghetto, Mamma Mia. Yeah, no, that's cool. I want to skip it though because it's a thick piece of information that might be a little bit too tangenty for me. But anyways, he would barely graduate from high school. So he'd be talking to people who would barely graduate from high school. One of those nerds who was always hiding out in the library, who adored Tolkien, later the Margaret Wise and Tracy Hickman novels. His favorite character was, of course, Railslin, and who, as the 80s marched on, developed a growing obsession with the end of the world. No apocalyptic movie or book or game existed that he had not seen, read, or played. Windman and Christopher and Gamma World were his absolute favorites.
I'll have to take note of those things because this just switched over to an ASMR book reading. Thank you for joining. Now let me continue on. You get the picture.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna do that. No, please. So he was reading every apocalyptic zombie-related end-of-the-world book. You get the picture. His adolescent nerdiness vaporizing any idiot of chance he had for young love. Everyone else going through the terror and joy of his first crushes, their first dates, their first kisses, while Oscar sat in the back of the class behind his DM screen and watched his adolescence stream by. That's a great reference. That's a great sentence there. His adolescence stream by. I like how he said that. Sex to be left out of adolescence, sort of like getting locked out of a closet on Venus when the sun appears for the first time in 100 years. There's actually a movie on that where they live on Venus and the sun doesn't come out. It comes out like once in 100 years, and the girl actually got locked in a closet. I think it was something about like the summer, something like that, and it rains all day. No sun. Once in 100 years. That's hilarious. Let me take these glasses off. Sucks to be left out of adolescence, sort of like getting locked in a closet on Venus when the sun appears for the first time in 100 years. It would have been one thing if I liked some of the nerd boys I'd grown up with. He hadn't cared about girls, but alas, he was still the passionate Inamaro who fell in love, especially and deeply. He had secret lovers all over town. The kind of curl-haired, big-bodied girls who wouldn't have said boo to a loser like him, but about whom he could not stop dreaming. His affection, his gravitational mass of love, fear, longing, desire, and lust that he directed at any and every girl in the vicinity without regard to looks, age, or availability, broke his heart each and every day. Despite the... I get you, man. I get it. There's so many beautiful... No, I'm kidding. That's hilarious, though. Despite the fact that he had considered his huge, sputtering force, it was actually most like the ghost because no girl ever really seemed to notice it. Occasionally, they might shudder or cross their arms when he walked near, but that was about it. He cried often. His love of some girl or another cried in the bathroom where nobody could hear him. I feel that, man. Anywhere else, his 000 batting average with the ladies might have passed without comment, but his Dominican kid we're talking about in a Dominican family, dude was supposed to have an atomic level G. He was supposed to be pulling in the bitches with both hands. Everybody noticed his lack of game in it because they were Dominican. Everybody talked about it. His tío Rodolfo, which means his uncle, in case Matt's still here, only recently released from his last final bid. Let me turn on the lights, dude. It's getting hard to It's not getting hard to read, but it's kind of getting hard to read. You know, the lights are slowly fading. We do blue. Here's blue. We're gonna do golden, a mixture of blue and golden. Oh yeah, that's way better, dude. My eyes are like not straining as much now. Struggling as the light slowly escapes me. Anyways, it's Tío Rodolfo. Where are we at? Only recently released from his last and final bid in the justice and now living in their house on Main Street, was especially generous in his tout leg. Lastly, Palomo. Listen, Palomo. That's what he said. I said lastly. My dyslexic ass. Oh my gosh. This is why I'm reading. This is why I'm doing this. Because I don't read. And I'm dyslexic as fuck. Because of it now. I'm like literally developing dyslexia. Or maybe I already had it and I just like was reading a lot. So it was helping counteract it or whatever. Creepy not grandpa no more. Was especially generous in two-leg. Listen, Palomo, you have to grab a muchacha y metérselo. What? Y métaselo. Oh, Jesus. Hold on, sorry, I gotta tell you this. Okay, I got like 20 more minutes, I think. Cause I don't know if I'm reading this shit slow, man. But we're getting through this book pretty slowly. Which is totally fine. You know, my dyslexic ass. Getting through it. Thank you guys for tuning in. I think we'll stop at the recording time of 1:30. An hour and 30. I'll wait till we've been live for an hour and 30 minutes to call it because I got to start getting ready. It says you guys like my shark? It's my friend. Go way back if he starts like moving. Hey, shark! This is no longer a book stream. It's a delusional stream. Lenny. I'm like in this corner. It looks like I'm eating this. That's where my mic is. Let's ring this upward, shall we? This will help me keep good like posture. His name is Slipper. That's a cute name. You have to grab the muchacha y métaselo. That will take care of everything. Crazy man. Start with a fea. Start with a fea. Go hot that fea y métaselo. This man's giving awful advice. Tío Rodolfo had 4 kids with 3 different women, so that N-word was without a doubt the family's resident métaselo expert. So he pretty much said grab a girl and just like stick it in her. That was his advice. That's what métaselo means. Hey, screenshot the poggers and we'll make it an amount. He was the métaselo expert. His mother's only comment, you need to worry about your grades and more introspective moments. Just be glad you didn't get my luck, hijo. What luck? His tío snorted. Exactly, she said. His friends, Alan Miggs, dude, you're kind of way fat, you know. His abuelita la Inca, hijo, you're most... Dude, you're kind of way fat. Is that what they're saying? Hijo, you're the most buen mozo man I know. Oscar's sister Lola was a lot more practical. Now that her crazy years were over, what Dominican girl doesn't have those? She turned into one of those tough Jersey Dominicans, a long-distance runner who drove her own car, had her own checkbook called Men Bitches, and would eat a fat cake in front of you without a speck of vergüenza. I wonder how white people are reading this book. There's a lot of Spanish words. Without a speck of vergüenza. When she was in the 4th grade, she had been attacked by older acquaintance, and this was common knowledge throughout the family and by extension of sizable section at Patterson, Union City, Tenek. And surviving the Yukine of pain, judgment, and Bonchiche had made her tougher than adamante. Adamantine. Adamante is a very delectable food item. So that's probably not what it is. Recently, she'd cut her hair short, flipping her mother yet again, particularly, I think, because she had been her family, and let it grow down. When she'd been little, her family let her grow down past her ass, a source of pride, something I'm sure her attacker noticed and admired. Okay. Oscar Lola warned repeatedly, you're going to die a virgin unless you start changing. Don't you think I know that? Another 5 years of this and I bet somebody tries to name a church after me. Cut the hair, lose the glasses, exercise, and get rid of those porn magazines. They're disgusting. They bother mommy and they'll never get you a date. Sound console that in the end, and he did not adopt. He tried a couple of times to exercise, leg lifts, sit-ups, walk-arounds, and block that early morning, that sort of thing, but he would notice how everyone else had a girl but him, and would despair, plunging back into eating penthouses, designing dungeons, and self-pity. Come on, Oscar. I seem to be allergic to diligence. And Lola said, ha, what you're allergic is to trying. It wouldn't have been half bad if Patterson and the surrounding precincts had been like Don Bosco or those 70s feminist sci-fi novels. He sometimes read an all-male exclusion zone. Patterson, however, was girls the way NYC was girls. What? Patterson, however, was girls the way NYC was girls. My dyslexic. Patterson, however, was girls the way NYC was girls. Patterson was girls the way Santo Domingo was girls. Patterson had mad girls, and if that wasn't guapas enough for you, well, motherfucker, then roll south, and there'll be a Newark, Elizabeth, Jersey City, the Orange, Union City, West New York, Weehawken, Perth, Ambody, and urban swath known N-words everywhere as Negropolis 1. So, in effect, he saw girls, Hispanophone, Caribbean girls everywhere. He wasn't safe even in his own house. His sister's girlfriend were always hanging out, permanent guests. When they were around, he didn't need no penthouses. Her girls were not too smart, but they were fine as shit. The sort of hot as balls Latinas who only dated weightlifter morenos or Latino cats with guns in their cribs. They were the only volleyball team together and tall and fit as colts, and they went for the runs, and it was what the track team might have looked like in terrorist heaven. Jeez. Fuck out of my way then. When you see me, oh yeah, he gay. I think he's gonna be gay, or like he's fighting. Like this book's about him like fighting his gayness or something, until he just finally fully gives in. Says, "Mom, guess what? Bergen County's very own Siguapas, La Primavera La primera was Gladys, who complained endlessly about her chest being too big, that she'd find a normal boyfriend if she had a smaller pair. Marisol, who'd end up in Maiti and hated Oscar, but whom Oscar liked most of all. Leticia was just off the boat, half Haitian, half Dominican, and special blend of Dominican government, swears no existe, who spoke to the deepest accent in the girl accent, a girl so good she refused to sleep with 3 consecutive boyfriends. Good for her. Good for her. It wouldn't have been so bad if those chicks weren't treated Oscar like some deaf-mute Harmon guard. Oh my god. Jones. Holy shit, dude. Hey, man. Audi. Damn, this man went out with a fucking boom. Jones, I love you, bro. Holy shit, you live here. I haven't hit you up. I'm such a fucking idiot. What are you doing tonight, man? Here, let me text you. Hold on 1 second. Let me text you, bro. One second, I'm gonna DM this boy and then we'll continue. Jones, what a fucking legend, dude. Thank you, man. I appreciate you, buddy. It was nice seeing you. We'll have to hang. I keep forgetting. It's been busy, man. I'll catch up for you when we link. Love you, though. Thank you. Thank you so much for the 10 gifted subs. This madman. Absolute fucking legend. Her girls were not too smart, but they were fine as shit. And oh yeah, this is when they were talking about the girls. She didn't sleep with 3 consecutive boyfriends. Good for her. It wouldn't have been so bad if these chiquitas hadn't treated Oscar like some deaf-mute Harlem guard, ordering him around, having him run errands, making fun of his games and looks. To make shit even worse, they blithely went about the particulars of their sex lives with no regard for him. Damn, they would talk about all the sexy shit they do in front of Oscar while roasting Oscar. Leave my mans alone. Hey, he would yell. In case you were wondering, there's a male unit here. Where? Marisol would say so blandly. I don't see one. And when they started talking about... Oh, they're talking so much shit. Okay, that was them talking shit. I just realized it. So they talked about their sex lives with no regard for him in front of him while he sat in the kitchen clutching his latest issue of Dragon. Hey, he would yell. In case you were wondering, there's a male unit in here, he said. And Marisol said, where? Marisol would say blandly, I don't see one. And when they talked about how all the Latin guys only seem to want to date white girls, he would offer, I like Spanish girls, to which Marisol responded, with wide consideration, that's great, Oscar. Only problem is no Spanish girl would date you. Shit, hold on. Sorry, let me finish this. I only got like 10 more minutes. I'll text bro after this. I make 6 more minutes, even less. So they're roasting my poor mans. Leave him alone, Leticia said. I think you're cute, Oscar. Yeah, right, Marisol laughed, rolling her eyes. Now he'll probably write a book about you. There were Oscar's furies, his personal Patreon, and girls he deemed most dreamed about and most beat off to, and who eventually found their way into their little stories. In his dreams, he was either saying that them from aliens, Wait, what? Hold on. These were Oscar's furries. What the fuck? I just saw that. I just realized that. Oscar's furries. His personal pantheon. The girls he most dreamed about, most beat off to, and eventually found their way into their little stories. In his dreams, he would either saving them from aliens or he was returning them to the neighborhood, rich, famous. It's him, the Dominican Stephen King. The Marisol would appear carrying one of each of his books for him to sign. Please, Oscar, marry me. Oscar drooly. I'm so sorry, Marisol. I don't marry ignorant bitches. This is what he would daydream about. There's no way the stream fucking restarted. That's so annoying. Not bad for an N-word who had never been shot in air. Rifle, thrown a punch, or scored higher than 1,000 in his SATs. Alright, I'm gonna end the stream right there because for some reason the stream just shut off and restarted. I know you guys probably didn't notice it, but it did it for me. And I don't want to have like a 10-second stream on there. But first 25 pages, I'm gonna keep reading this book. This is the very first 30 pages, 28 pages. I'm gonna keep reading this book and I'm gonna share it to my friend. What an interesting recommendation she's given me. But thank you guys so much for joining me. Thank you for everyone who donated. Jones, you fucking legend. Bruh. All right. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to go ahead and find a different soundtrack, I think. What's a... let's listen to this real quick. For those watching, watched the stream before. It fucking... Ooh, Raid. Everyone's gone, though, it says. I think everyone left. It says I have no viewers right now, so I think everyone already left. I gotta get into the habit of raiding, man. Let's see here. I gotta get into the habit of raiding, man. Yeah, they're gone. We'll do it next time. I gotta put like a fucking sign there that says raid or whatever, just to remind myself. But hey, thank y'all so much. Thank you for joining, and I'll see y'all